Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And this book over here is the core book of Lamentations of the Flame Princess. It's one of the most popular OSR games. And this book over here, Lion and Dragon, is my game. And it had its birth in a campaign that would be the creation of the Dark Albion setting and the Lion and Dragon house rules. But before those house rules were developed, because they were developed over the course of 6 years of gameplay, they had started that campaign. It started out as a Lamentations of the Flame Princess game. And I'm bringing all this up because we've had the news yesterday, I guess. Yesterday, that there was a Lamentations product that has come out that has had a certain number, we still don't know how many numbers, of books destroyed in the distributor's warehouse because one person thought that the topic of the game was disgusting. Now, you've got to understand, Lamentations of the Flame Princess they are kind of like shock jocks, right? Like, their games are often meant to be, really creepy horror or controversial topics. James Raggi likes to court controversy. You look back a few videos and the whole blow up in the OSR between the SJWs and, everybody else started because James Raggi had his picture taken with the Lamentations rulebook and Jordan Peterson, right? So he's a guy that likes to court controversy. And his games often have controversial subject matter, controversial art. It's really funny because I find myself kind of surrounded by a lot of these OSR, what would you call them, edgelords, I guess. And my games are always like totally they never have anything actually controversial in terms of their content, right? So you got like Alpha Blue with all of its, hookers and tits and stuff, and then Lamentations with its, women being dismembered and things like that, and even Grim Jim's games have been controversial over time, and then you've got Lion and Dragon where you're like, the controversial thing is the characters are supposed to go to mass, right? That's the controversial part, right? That there's a king and that you're supposed to have strict hierarchies of social classes in the medieval world. Those are my controversies, which in a way I think is way more punk rock, because really, what else have you seen thus far? Up to this point in the gaming world, everything has been done already, and there's nothing that's really going to shock anyone. It's just to make people pretend to be shocked so that they can be offended, and then that offense gives you more attention, right? But I mean, nobody's really shocked by space hookers, right? If you really want to be a rebel in this day and age, what you have to do is create a medieval authentic game where you're suggesting that the medieval period had certain redeeming faculties, right? You're suggesting that, you can have a clerical order where it's inherently impossible for the clerical order to be corrupt, or for clerics to be evil and still retain their position or their powers, right? Where you can have the idea that you could play a peasant and he has to actually act like a peasant, and not like, just like you're some guy from Seattle. But anyways, that's off topic at the moment. The important thing is that Lamentations does do stuff that is intentionally edgy, and they made a product now, I think it's called She Bleeds, which is themed, it's not even an adventure, which is what they normally make. So you could totally tell that Raggi was trying to that he accepted to do this mostly for the shock value, because normally all of his stuff that he publishes are adventures. But it's like a supplement for magic based on menstrual blood, right? And the cover has the woman bleeding between her legs, right? In his defense, if I was going to have something controversial in terms of magic in Lion and Dragon, that might be it too, because menstrual blood has been a part of magic, black magic and witchcraft especially, in the Western tradition since forever, right? This isn't some weird thing he invented. This is absolutely a contextual part of, the Western conception of magic and folklore. So yeah, my cat's coming down here. Hey, there you go. So there, it's not that there's anything wrong to me with that subject matter, right? But I can understand, obviously, that for some people it would feel really shocking. And of course, his goal, I think, which mission accomplished, James, was to piss off as many people as possible, right? Including people on both sides of the political spectrum. So this game, which was not written by him, or this product rather, which is not written by him, was written by somebody called Elizabeth. I forget her last name. It's she has a South Asian last name. I believe it is that, anyways. And she's obviously a woman of color, right? And so this is not like something that he made himself in the in some kind of an offensive style. It was meant, as far as I know, it was meant to be done seriously. It was meant to be taken seriously. I mean, I haven't read the product myself. I've never seen the product myself, except for some promotional art that was out for it that has been going around now. But as some of these books were in the distribution network, at one of the distributors, some employee saw it and decided it was disgusting and destroyed all those books rather than ship them out to bookstores or wherever they were supposed to be going. Right now, as far as I understand, there's certain things to keep in mind here. First, this is not a case where they destroyed... I mean, they might have destroyed something that they weren't supposed to for the distributor, right? But it's not that they destroyed James Raggy's books without paying him for it. He was, if it had gotten to the distributor, that means he's already been paid for it. So that's not the issue. It's not a legal case where they destroyed property that didn't belong to that company, at least. Maybe it depends, because from what we know is only something that the author of the supplement posted, that she was informed by someone inside that distribution company, that somebody else inside the distribution company had felt that it was, quote, disgusting, that book of hers, and then destroyed all the copies rather than ship them out. Now, there was a thread that I started about this on Twitter, and it had some responses that disappointed me, and I'll get to more about that later. But first, I'll say that James Raggy showed up on that thread in response to somebody else who was basically claiming that Raggy probably tricked them into, that he had been deceptive in their purchase, and then, they bought it under false circumstances. They were basically accusing Jim Raggy of being a fraud, or at the very least, deceptive advertising of his product, and that's why he hadn't said anything, because it would get him into trouble. He came and he posted, he said that he has been in, I guess, a convention for the last weekend, and so he really doesn't know anything about what's going on yet. He's heard that some copies have been distributed. He doesn't even know yet which is the distributor, and whether it's 3 copies or 300 copies, right? So this is all very early news, but the point is that it does appear that a book has been destroyed because somebody took offense to it, right? And that to me is absolutely appalling, right? And it should be appalling to everyone, except of course it isn't. In this case, it's been not appalling to way too many people, because you have members, if you look in the social media verse, you have members of the SJW OSR, the people who had just recently been crapping all over Raggy for his picture with Jordan Peterson, who are of course cheering the fact that the work of a woman of color, because she's South Asian, I believe, has been destroyed. only because the publisher of her book is someone that they politically disagree with, right? So they're now cheering the censoring of minority works, right? That's what they're doing. And then on the other side, because there is another side here, you have a bunch of the dude bros of the Inglorious OSR, right? The people that I would say I feel more akin to, right? But a number of them are like, ooh, that they don't like the subject matter. They think it's, some feminist thing or something like that. And therefore they haven't stood with it, right? Some of them have been so about it, saying so like, well, I don't know. That sounds kind of like a fuzzy story. I don't know if I should trust it. And okay, well, we don't have to trust it yet, but we can start out by agreeing that if it did happen, it would be horribly wrong for somebody anywhere to decide that book shouldn't get to be read by other people just because they personally don't like it, right? Like, that's the place to start from here. Not, did it happen or did it not happen, right? Like, we're going to find out if it happened or not. I'm sure that, I don't know this author of this particular book, but I know Jim Raggi, and I don't think that he's going to lie to people about this if it turns out to have been an error or misunderstanding. And then you had some other people that were saying, well, I think what just happened is that the distribution network didn't realize how whatever, this is where they get to where like they suggest Raggi was doing deceptive advertising. And in that case, like, what do you say to that? That's not what we know from what we were told. What we were told was that specifically it wasn't a problem of the distribution company being dissatisfied with the product as a whole, but of one person in that company, a person which apparently I'm guessing had the authority to do this, destroying the work because they personally found it disgusting, not because it wasn't the product that they had wanted, right? So this is a different thing, because one of them you can understand, and so like some of my libertarian viewers or fans on Twitter have been attacking me by saying, well, how dare you interfere with the going-ons of business, right? Well, I'm going to interfere with the goings-on of government, of business, or of anybody else who believes that they should get to tell me whether or not I'm allowed to read something, okay? It's that simple. Cat, what the hell are you doing? Hey, I don't normally put you into the view, but there you go. All right. Sorry, my cat was messing up a calendar there for some reason. So, like those guys, and then there's the other ones that are saying, well, that's degenerate art or something like that, right? Like you've got the really right-wing guys, the Christian fundamentalists or the social conservatives or whatever, that are like, well, yeah, that's good because, why do we need a book about, women bleeding, from the PMS or whatever? And it's like, this is not, you're no different if you have that point of view from the SJWs who think that other OSR books should be banned, right? You're saying you personally don't care for the product, so that product shouldn't exist, right? Or it shouldn't be allowed to be viewed by anyone, right? And this is a huge issue for me, right? Because it's a hypocrisy I can't stand, right? If you want to come out as saying that, you're pro-censorship, okay, fine, just admit it, right? But don't then go around complaining about free speech when someone bans a game you like, right? Because this is the foundation of the whole deal. We don't have a counter argument that actually makes sense apart from two when it comes to censorship. One is might makes right. I have power, so I get to censor anything I want, right? And the other one is that there is an inalienable right of free speech. And if that's the one you go with, that means that nobody can censor you. And that also means that you can't censor anyone, right? And it means you can't just defend the products that you like. You have to defend every product, right? Because if not, the whole system falls apart, right? It depends on the fact that if everybody inalienably has the right to their free expression, to write a book about menstrual blood magic if they want to, then that means that if that is taken away by one person, it sets the precedent for somebody else to use force to take it away from another. This is the reason we have these kinds of rights, is because the alternative was, for a very long time, what we saw in the medieval period, which was a bunch of people bashing each other's brains out because the other people weren't doing what they wanted, right? And I mean, I know it's more subtle than that, because I wrote the book about it being more subtle than that. But fundamentally, that is the difference between the Enlightenment and the pre-Enlightenment. It's the difference between enlightened Western society and many other societies in the world, right? Or there are some equivalents in other societies, right? But the notion of rights, of individual rights that amount to more than just the most powerful person is right, or God tells us to, right? Because neither of those are systems that are ultimately defensible from the point of view of not ending up yourself and the people you love becoming victims of persecution, right? So this is, from my point of view, it's never a book that I'd probably use. I mean, I guess it depends. If someone tells me that this book is super medieval authentic and not just something kind of made up by some modern day witch or something like that, then maybe I'll even take a look at it, right? But that's not the point. It's not about me liking or not liking the book. It's that the book has a right to exist, right? It has, the person who wrote it, rather, has a right for their book to exist and for their book to get seen by other people. And most importantly, no one has the right to decide for other people whether they should be allowed or not to see a book. That's the central issue, right? People seem to think that I'm arrogant sometimes, but I've never been so arrogant as to believe that I should get to decide what someone else is or is not allowed to read. Not ever, right? And the amount of arrogance that takes is just astounding to me, how many people actually routinely fall into that, so to say, because there's a lot of people that seem to think that their shit is so together, that they are so wonderful as intellectuals and human beings, that they should basically get to decide for everyone else what they are not allowed to watch, play, read, eat, who they should be allowed to have sex with, and all of this, right? And it's people on the left and people on the right. Lately, the people on the left have been the bigger troublemakers. But there's more of the totalitarians on that side that have influence and power than there are on the right. But whether it's on the one side or the other, these are the people that I will fight. They don't represent me in either case, because we don't want to have a society that comes down to someone else getting to decide what you are or are not allowed to read. Okay? That's everything for today. I'll keep you updated if there's any other significant news about this product. If it turns out to be a mistake or a hoax or whatever, I don't think it will be. It may turn out to be that it was like 2 books and not like a whole load of books. But destroying 2 books is to me, philosophically at least, as bad as destroying hundreds, because it implies that if you could, you would destroy them, right? This is why when people say, well, yeah, I'm censoring you here, but you can go somewhere else, that doesn't make you any less of a censor. You've already proven that if you had the power, you would silence someone completely, right? This is that we're now only talking about, what your level of power is, not whether or not you would put someone in a gulag, right? We know already, at the moment you decide that you can censor someone, we know that if you had the level of power that allowed you to do it, you would put someone in a gulag. That's resolved, right? The only thing now is deciding how much power you have and how we can take that power away from you so that you can't keep doing the shitty thing you're doing, right? Anyway, if you like the video, please check out the channel, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and if you really like this video and want me to produce more, so I'm putting out videos more often, support me on Patreon. The Patreon link will be in the description below, or if you don't use Patreon, you can click the link to my blog, and then there's a PayPal button in the blog. I would really appreciate either. It's a great help. Thank you to the people who have recently supported me on Patreon. I've seen it slowly growing, and that's wonderful. And if it keeps up like this, we will get soon to a point where I'll be doing more than one video a week, or obliged to do more. Sometimes I do more than one already, but if I get to a certain funding point, then I'll have to do it, right? And also just share the video, especially anywhere where people would be interested in this kind of news, and the fact that an RPG supplement on menstrual blood by a woman of color has been destroyed because somebody found it disgusting, and that you've got a significant part of the hobby in numerous areas behaving badly about it. That's everything for today. Currently smoking a Lorenzetti egg plus barking dog.